Tiny Bull Studios, the developers behind the Lonesome Guild, are mostly known for their indie game Omen Exidio Plague. While not super popular among indie enthusiasts, it's easy to see that it has grown a dedicated fan base based on the Steam reviews, where it sits at a very positive rating. While that game puts players in the role of an investigator, the Lonesome Guild changes gears and places players into the shoes of a group of friends on a journey to save the world. In the year 2025, the gaming community received many great indie games, even more than in previous years. Some examples include Blueprints, Schedule 1, The Alters, Claire Obscure Expedition 33, and much more. With so many successes going on in the indie space, the Lonesome Guild has plenty of competition and is up against a lot to attempt to stand out and make a name for itself. From the moment I saw the first trailer of the Lonesome Guild, I had a feeling that it would be a game I'd enjoy. An interesting story plot, top-down combat with RPG elements, and a relationship system at its forefront. All of these elements fall into my wheelhouse, and all of them together usually result in a game that I thoroughly love. That is, only if they are done right. After playing through the Lonesome Guild, which took me around 12 hours to complete, I have a ton of thoughts running through my mind. Let's discuss them all in this review, where you'll find out if the Lonesome Guild is worth your time and money, or if it's an indie game that will soon be forgotten about.
A story with wasted potential.
The Lonesome Guild follows a group of characters from different walks of life, all focused on completing a similar goal. They want to defeat loneliness, a mysterious evil that is consuming the world in the form of a red fog. Those infected by the loneliness begin to lose themselves, slowly turning into evil beings and becoming a threat to society. It's up to the Lonesome Guild to stop the spread of the loneliness fog, or else everyone will have no choice but to accept it as the norm, get their minds controlled by it, and the world will end. For the most part, I actually really enjoyed the premise of the Lonesome Guild. Using a powerful human emotion as the villain of the game, especially one that no one wants to feel, was a great idea and is actually one of the more clever narrative plots I've engaged with this year. Unfortunately, having a clever plot idea will only get you so far, and it's the execution behind it that will determine if the story turns out to be actually good. It's over the top and cliché, resulting in a story that begins to feel repetitive and uninspiring almost immediately. I understand that friendships can help with loneliness, and the main villain is that human emotion, but I just wish the Lonesome Guild had explored it in a more mature way. Be prepared to get most of your story beats from conversations with party members around a campfire, with no voice acting work, and dialogue that becomes more and more uninteresting the longer you read it. There's just not really any substance here. I found myself beginning to zone out as the story progressed, since there was almost nothing that really grabbed me, especially in its third part as it began to reach its climax. For a game that doesn't have much to say at all, there is way too much talking, and I wish the developers did less dialogue and focused on putting more meaning behind the words. It just all feels soulless, and I don't even think the best voice acting work would save the story that Tiny Bull Studios made here.
Cozy combat that is a bit too basic.
The Lonesome Guild uses a top-down approach to combat that focuses on avoiding enemy attacks by moving around an arena while executing basic attacks and powerful spells. It also involves an ultimate meter that allows players to unleash an all-out devastating attack once the meter is filled. That's all there really is to it, and it doesn't get much more complex than that, outside of having the ability to upgrade skills and spells in a skill tree. If you're coming into the Lonesome Guild expecting an in-depth combat system, then you most definitely will be disappointed. However, if you're looking for a relaxing time and one that doesn't demand much from you, then you'll likely really enjoy what Tiny Bull Studios has created here. It's a simple combat system that works, is easy to understand, and one that feels right at home in the cozy game subgenre.
Still, I would have liked more complexity in its systems. For example, the ultimate is an all-out attack that utilizes all party members on the field. It would have been nice if this ultimate changed depending on the characters you have equipped, rather than being the same exact one for all party compositions. Additionally, no character has much that makes them stand out from the rest, such as clear strengths and weaknesses, so there's no real reason to test out different party compositions. This is a huge shame and removes replay value, as there is no real reason to do a second playthrough to try out different combat strategies. It's a one-and-done type of game for me, and I'd predict that it'll be the same case for other players due to the surface-level combat system. It also doesn't help that the Lonesome Guild is by far one of the easiest games I have ever played, which is another example of why it's never encouraged to try out different strategies in combat. For the record, I played on normal difficulty, and I didn't die once during my entire playthrough. However, there is a hard mode difficulty available, so players who want a bigger challenge have the choice to get it.
A half-baked relationship system is at its core. As previously mentioned, a lot of your time will be spent around a campfire, talking to your party members. While this is used to push the story further, it's also part of the game's progression system. The Lonesome Guild has a relationship system where the more you speak to a party member, the higher their relationship rank becomes. This leads to unlocking more branches on the skill tree, leading to new unlockable abilities and spells. I'm all for relationships in video games, but just like the story and combat system, the relationship system isn't fully realized and is really simplistic. It doesn't require any effort, as it only involves selecting Relationship from a drop-down menu and listening to a brief dialogue interaction between the two characters. This will then increase your rank with that character. It just feels shoved into the game for no other reason than it's a popular game mechanic. I get why the Lonesome Guild added it, since the message of the game is togetherness and friendship, but I just wish it weren't half-baked and was more engaging. Closing comments. The Lonesome Guild isn't a game I would really recommend to anyone, but it's also one I can see a very specific type of player enjoying. Every aspect of the game is undercooked, such as bare-bones combat, a childish story that never reaches its potential, and a relationship system that feels shoved into the game just for the sake of it. In other words, there's no standout reason to play through its 12-hour journey. However, it does have a cozy vibe to it that may appeal to players just looking for an easy game to pick up and play. And while they may find some fleeting joy in their adventure with these characters, I wouldn't imagine them ever coming back to it. The Lonesome Guild isn't necessarily a bad game, it's just one that doesn't do anything particularly special or great to stand out from the crowd.